This is Sony's brand new 10-20mm f4 power zoom lens for their Sony APS-C system. Is this lens any good for vlogging? We're going to talk about that next. Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name's Brian, the camera guy. On my channel, I review Sony cameras and lenses. If that's something you're into, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. But today I have the brand new Sony 10-20mm f4 lens, which is a power zoom lens for the Sony APS-C system. Currently, I do have the ZV-E10, and I have on right now the Sony 11mm f1.8. Is this 1mm going to make a huge difference for vlogging? Well, it's an f4 versus a 1.8. You will lose a little bit of depth of field, but is that 1mm going to make a big difference? Let's go ahead and throw it on. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. 10mm, 11mm, 10mm. All right, so this is the field of view that you would see on a 10mm lens. So this 10-20mm is going to be equivalent to about a 15 to 30mm full frame equivalent. Now it is an f4 lens, so you are going to lose some stops of light compared to like an f2.8. This is probably the lightest, smallest, most compact zoom lens that you can get for the Sony APS-C system. It's a 10-20mm lens, which is going to give you an equivalent of around 15 to 30mm. Now it is an f4.0, so it's not going to do great in low light, but what I can tell you is that during the day when you're out vlogging, it's going to do a great job giving you some subject separation. Now, do you need unbelievable massive amounts of blur when you're out vlogging? No, you do want to show some of the environment. And a lot of times, depending on your ND filter, you might be stopping down to an f4.0 anyway, or even a 5.6, or you're going to be cranking up that shutter speed. So sometimes just having an f4.0 makes it so much easier to shoot during the middle of the day. Not all of us have the luxury of shooting all the time at golden hour. Now, real quick, let me take you around this lens. This lens is a power zoom lens that is a 10-20mm focal length, which is equivalent to 15 to 30mm full frame. It's an f4, so it's not going to be great in low light, but it is going to be fast enough where you can do daily vlogging. It does have a focus hold button along with an autofocus manual focus switch. It has a 62mm filter thread. The minimum focusing distance on this thing is 0.2 meters or 0.66 feet. It's got electronic connections here in the back to make the autofocus work. It has a standard plastic front and rear lens cap. And this thing is super light, coming in at 178 grams or 6.3 ounces. It is made for the Sony APS-C system, but will work on a full frame camera as well. Now, I do want to show you what it's like to vlog with this lens with no stabilization on. Now, this is the Sony ZV-E10, so it does have active stabilization that you can turn on, but this is the 15mm view. I'm going to go ahead and turn on active stabilization, and we'll go ahead and see how much better this lens is as far as stability goes. But this is walking with no stabilization on right now, and me just hand holding the camera. Okay, so now I got the active stabilization on. It's a 15mm full frame equivalent. Throw on that active stab here on the Sony ZV-E10, and you're looking at about a 22.5mm-ish equivalent, or 23mm equivalent. Might be a little too tight for vlogging. You can still see some background here, but we got it set at an f4 right now because that's as wide as this lens will go. And this is what the footage would look like if you were walking around with the active stabilization on. So go ahead and comment down below. Let me know what you think. Is this going to be steady enough? Is the Sony ZV-E10 going to be good enough for vlogging with this lens? Love to hear your comments down below. Now, one of the things I do like about this lens, being that it's powered zoom, is I like the fact that you're able to quickly punch in if you ever need to get a little bit closer to your subject. So you don't have to worry about any sort of cropping or zooming in post. You can do it all right in the lens. So you can zoom in for dramatic purposes, and you can zoom out to show more of the background. So you want to be out there and you're vlogging, you want to go ahead and emphasize a point, you just kind of zoom in, and now you're here. And you can change the speed of how this zooms very easily in the menus. Right now I have it set up at around a normal zoom speed. So there you go. So you can kind of punch in, punch out. There you go. Now let's talk about one of the drawbacks to this lens. This lens is an f4, so that means it's not going to be great in low light. And couple that with the Sony APS-C system, do well in low light, but not to the same extent that a full frame camera would. As you can see, I had to turn the lights on to give us a little bit of exposure, and I do have a light right over here. Prior to me turning it on, it was a little difficult to see. You're going to need a lot more light if you're going to try and use this thing after dark. you like that little montage there. That was shot exclusively on the Sony ZV-E10 and the 10 to 20 millimeter f4 lens. So as you can see, the f4 definitely helps, as it does make it a little bit nicer to shoot during the middle of the day. This thing is light, compact, it has no stabilization. So if you're looking for some with stabilization, this is not the lens you're gonna wanna get. All right, so Sony does have a 10 to 20 millimeter f4, which is about 7-8 years old now. That lens does have stabilization. So if you're looking for some with stabilization and your camera doesn't have it, maybe you have the A6400 or the 6100, you're probably gonna wanna opt for maybe that lens. But if you can get away with not having stabilization, this lens is gonna be fantastic. One of the other cons that I found with this lens is that you can easily bump that zoom rocker. Next thing you know, you could be shooting at 14 or 15 millimeters. That zoom rocker, because the lens is so small, it's tough to make sure that you don't hit that. So this lens is extremely lightweight, so it's gonna make it very comfortable to vlog with. You can actually get a selfie tripod type stick, and you're gonna be able to hold this thing out all day long without a problem. Couple this with the ECM B10 microphone, and you got yourself a very light, small, compact setup, which has no cables, no cords, and you can be out there vlogging all day long. So who's this lens for? Well, it's for anybody who's ready to go out and do some vlogging with a zoom lens, who wants a very wide field of view. As you can see, I mean, this thing is 10 millimeters, which is equivalent to about 15, which is great, because even on the full frame systems, you can't get a zoom lens that's that wide that allows you to put ND filters on it. This is going to be a very nice wide vlogging setup. Now it is f4, so you're going to be able to use it so much in low light, but if you're going to be out vlogging throughout the day, maybe you're going to shoot a family member's party or something during the summer, this is going to be a great lens. This thing is also great for gimbal work. So if you're going to be using a gimbal and you're going to be using an APS-C camera, this lens is going to work out perfectly. Or say you have the new Sony Alpha 7 IV and you're looking for a crop sensor lens to shoot 4K 60. This lens is going to work because it does have zoom capabilities. So you're easily able to throw it onto a gimbal, couple that with the A7 IV, and this thing is going to do a fantastic job. It's really nice that they're finally investing some lenses into the Sony APS-C system. So now it would be great if they could come out with a professional body that would have great stabilization, 10-bit 422 video, and be able to work with these lenses. I think we could be set up for a really nice run with the APS-C system. I think it would be good enough for a lot of people that are just starting out. Most people jump into the APS-C system instead of jumping into the full frame system. You can get cameras a lot cheaper. The lenses are a lot smaller. They're lighter. They're easier to manage. And some people just really like having that APS-C sensor because they don't want to carry around a huge giant full frame camera. And this lens right here, this one is going to do a great job for you. Would I pick this up if I had an APS-C system? Absolutely. I think this would be a great lens. It's a great upgrade from the original 10 to 20 millimeter lens. Downside is no stabilization, but you can work around that. Most other cameras don't have stabilization, and people are shooting great video with that A6400 or 6100. I have put links to this lens and all the gear that I talked about in this video down in the description below. Feel free to check out more about this lens.